Welcome to the 2025 UFC Predictions Tracker results video. In this video we will break down which YouTube channels were the best and most profitable UFC predictors of the year. We'll look at which channels are the most accurate and profitable with their winner picks, who performed best when picking favorites and underdogs, and which channels were the most accurate at predicting the exact method of victory. There's a lot to cover, so let's start with the 2025 UFC fight and total prediction stats as an introduction to the results. In 2025 there were a total of 42 UFC events, with 13 pay-per-view cards and 29 fight nights, for a total of 520 fights in 2025. So on average 12.4 fights per event. Out of those 520 fights there were 6 fights that had no winner. 3 fights ended in a draw, or actually 4 because one was overturned after a few weeks. But for this video we will look at betting results, and in betting results that fight had a winner. So 3 draws. And 3 fights ended in a no contest because of an illegal upkick, a groin strike and an eye poke. So for the prediction results in this video we will look at all the 514 fights of 2025 that had a winner. In 2025 I tracked a lot of channels and I tracked a lot of predictions. And these are the 2025 overall prediction statistics for picking the winner. For the results in this video I only show channels that are active at this moment, which are a total of 158. And those 158 channels made a total of 53,355 predictions for picking the winner. So on average for each event I tracked 1270 predictions. Each fight out of the 514 fights this year I tracked a total of 103.8 predictions per fight. So out of those more than 53,000 predictions that I've tracked this year, how many of them were correct or incorrect? The total correct predictions was 33,435. For an average correct pick percentage of 62.7%, and almost 20,000 or 19,920 predictions were incorrect for 37.3%. For picking the winner results I only include channels that made picks on at least half of all the fights in 2025, so in this case a minimum of 257. So which channels were the least accurate when predicting the winner for each fight in 2025? From number 10 to number 6, for the least accurate channels for predicting the winner, we have the following 8 channels, starting with a correct pick percentage of 59.2% down to 58%. In 5th place, for least accurate, we have Sean from the Running Mouth MMA show with a correct pick percentage of 57.9%. And in 4th place, we have Santino DeFranco. He might be a great coach, but he's not such a good predictor, because he picked the winner correct 169 times out of 295 for a correct pick percentage of 57.3%. But someone very familiar to Santino DeFranco did even worse, because in 3rd place we have his co-host Brandon, and he has a much lower correct pick percentage of only 53.1%. And in 2nd place we have Guaranteed from Bros Talk MMA with a correct pick percentage of 52.3%. But the least accurate channel of 2025 for predicting the winner for each fight, in 1st place we have Sansu Tips, and he picked the winner correct only 157 times out of 309 for a correct pick percentage of 50.8%. Now which channels are the most accurate with predicting the winner for each fight and have the highest correct pick percentage over 2025? In the top 10 for most accurate channels from number 10 to number 6 we have the following 8 channels with a correct pick percentage of 65.9% up to 67.3%. In 5th place for most accurate channel we have Sports Betting Up. He had 327 out of his 485 winner picks correct for a correct pick percentage of 67.4%. With a 0.2% higher correct pick percentage of 67.6%. In 4th place we have Jake Gerber MMA, and he had 324 picks correct out of 479. Opening up the top 3, sharing 3rd place, we have the following 2 channels in alphabetical order. Left Lane MMA and Gerardo from MCA Picks, and both of them have a correct pick percentage rounded to the nearest decimal of 67.9%. And an interesting note is that Left Lane MMA is the only channel in this top 10 that made picks on all 514 fights of this year. And in 2nd place, the second most accurate channel in 2025, we have Eucelius. I started tracking this channel around halfway of 2025, so that's why I only have 262 predictions, but out of those 179 were correct for a correct pick percentage of 68.3%. And in 1st place, the most accurate channel of 2025, we have MMA Husky Hustler. He picked the winner correctly 296 times out of 428 for a correct pick percentage of 69.2%, making him the most accurate UFC predictor of 2025. So congratulations to MMA Husky Hustler and the rest of this top 10 for being the most accurate predictors of 2025. And here is the complete overview of all 158 active channels that I've tracked this year, which also include channels that made picks on less than half of all the fights. And some of these channels I started tracking only a month ago or less. In this overview you see the channel name, the correct picks, total picks and the correct pick percentage. What if you had blindly followed every pick a channel made this year and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them? Well, this would have been the results. So for these rankings we will ignore the channel's confidence level on their pick or whether or not they like the odds and more. Basically every pick counts. And to calculate the results we use the odds from the tail of the tape shown before each fight. And we start with the least profitable channels of 2025. Opening up the top 10 of least profitable channels of 2025 from number 10 to number 6 we have the following 6 channels. Fight Fiend Forecast, Coach from Premium Picks, Giuliano Argentini, The Prestige, MMA Bet Viper and Guaranteed from Bros Talk MMA. Had you placed a $100 moneyline bet on each pick one of these channels had made, you would have had a return on investment of minus 8.2% down to minus 9.2%. In 5th place, with a return on investment of minus 9.6%, we have Sportsbook Killa. In 4th place, we have Marcel from MMA Oddsbreaker, with a return on investment of minus 11.1%. Opening up the top 3 for least profitable channels in 2025, in 3rd place, we have Ankh MMA, with a return on investment of minus 11.8% over his 328 picks. The second least profitable channel of 2025 with a slightly worse return on investment of minus 12.2%. In 2nd place we have DFS by the numbers. But in 1st place for the least profitable channel of 2025 with their winner picks we have Brandon from the Santino DeFranco podcast. Had you blindly followed all of his 294 picks and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them, you could have lost almost $5,000 for a return on investment of minus 17%, which is around 5% worse than number 2 and 3 of the least profitable channels. Which channels were the most profitable in 2025 for predicting the winner for each fight? Opening up the top 10 for the most profitable predictors of 2025 from number 10 to number 6 we have the following 7 channels. MMA Husky Hustler, the most accurate channel of 2025. MMA Experts, The Wager Zone, Kunat, Jake Gerber MMA, Drywall and Eucelius with a return on investment of 1.2% up to 2.1%. And in 5th place we have Tony S. Died MMA with a return on investment of 3% over his 268 picks. Sharing 4th place in alphabetical order we have Fight Fairy and Sports Betting Hub. Both of them made more than 400 picks this year and had a return on investment of 3.6%. Opening up the top 3 with a 0.1% higher return on investment for 3.7% we have Lucrative James in 3rd place. And at number 2, the second most profitable channel of 2025, we have Gerardo from MCA Picks. And he had a return on investment of 4.4% over his 318 picks. And in 1st place, with a much higher return on investment, the most profitable channel of 2025, we have MMA Ethic. Had you followed all of his 500 winner picks and placed a $100 moneyline bet on each of them, you could have won $3,507 for a return on investment of 7%. So congratulations to MMA Ethic for being the most profitable predictor in 2025 and the rest of the top 10 of the most profitable predictors. And this is the complete overview of all 158 channels that I've tracked this year, which also include channels that made picks on less than half of all the fights, with their total money won or lost, return on investment, correct picks, total picks, correct pick percentage and total investment. Before we jump into the results for the best favorite and underdog predictors, let's first go quickly over the 2025 favorites versus underdog fighting stats. As I mentioned before, we had a total of 520 fights this year, and out of those 520 fights, 12 were even in odds. And we had 3 fights that ended in a draw and 3 fights in a no contest. So that means we had 502 fights where there was a favorite and an underdog. So how many times did the favorite or underdog fighter in odds won their fight in 2025? Well, the favorite fighter in odds won their fight 340 times out of 502 for 67.7%. And the underdog managed to win 162 fights for 32.3%. So almost a third of all the fights. Before we go into the favorites versus underdogs overall prediction results, I want to take a quick look at the 12 fights that were even in odds and how the prediction channels did overall. So on those 12 fights that were even in odds, there were a total of 1184 predictions. And in those 12 fights, all of the prediction channels picked the winner correctly 666 times for 56.3%. And incorrect 518 times for 43.8%. So for the 12 fights that were even in odds in 2025, the prediction channels did better than average. Now, how good were the prediction channels overall in 2025 with their picks on favorites and underdogs? And as a quick reminder, the favorite won 340 fights for 67.7% and the underdogs won 162 fights for 32.3%. I've tracked a total of 52,171 predictions on fights where there was a favorite and underdog. And the favorite fighter in odds was picked 40,175 times for 77%, and the underdog was picked almost 12,000 times for 11,996 for 23%. And when we compare the favorite versus underdog picks versus the fight results, we can see that the favorites are picked too much with 77% versus how much they win, which is only 67.7%. And the underdogs aren't picked enough with only 23% because they win 32.3%. Which leads me to the conclusion that in picks, but also in sports betting, the favorites are overvalued and the underdogs are undervalued. Which means that the most profitable MMA betting opportunities can be found by finding those undervalued underdogs. Which will be clearly shown when we look at the results for the best favorite and underdog predictors. Which we'll look at in a minute. But going back to the favorites versus underdogs overall results, 28,036 predictions on the favorites were correct for 69.8%. And 12,139 were incorrect for 30.2%. And for all the picks on underdogs, 4,733 were correct for 39.5% and 7,263 were incorrect for 60.5%. Which channels were the most accurate with picking the favorite fighter in odds to win their fight in 2025? For the top 10, from number 10 to number 6, we have the following 11 channels that are all very close together with their correct pick percentage. From 71.6% up to 72%, so only a 0.1% difference between each place. Sharing 5th place, we have Michael from the Dogger Pass podcast and Carlos from MCA Picks with a correct pick percentage of 72.2%. And also sharing the same place, in 4th place, we have Drywall and Fight IQ with Fun with a correct pick percentage of 72.4%. With a correct pick percentage of 72.9%, in 3rd place, we have Gerardo from MCA Picks. And the second most accurate channel for predicting the winner for favorite fighters in odds is Sports Betting Hub. And he had a correct pick percentage of 73.1%. But the most accurate channel in 2025 was MMA Addict. He picked the favorite fighter in odds 345 times and was correct 253 times for a correct pick percentage of 73.3%. So congrats to MMA Addict for being the most accurate channel for favorite fighters in odds. Now, which channels were the most profitable with their picks on favorite fighters in odds? And as you could see in the favorites versus underdogs fights and prediction stats, the favorite fighter in odds were picked much more than they actually won. Which is why almost every channel that I've tracked lost money with their picks on favorite fighters in odds. Which you can also see in this top 10. Because from number 10 to number 3, every channel lost money. With a return on investment for number 10 of minus 1.4%. Up to minus 0.3% for number 3. And only 2 channels in this top 10 had a positive return on investment. And one of those channels in second place is Fight IQ with Fun, with a profit of $144 over his 196 picks on favorite fighters in odds for a return on investment of 0.7%. And in first place, the most profitable channel in 2025 with their picks on favorite fighters in odds was MMA Addict, who was also the most accurate channel with their picks on favorite fighters in odds. Had you followed all of his picks on favorite fighters, you could have won $330 for a return on investment of 1%. So congratulations again to MMA Addict for being the most profitable and most accurate predictor for favorite fighters in odds in 2025. As you could see from the previous part, it's overall pretty hard to make money on favorite fighters in odds. But the good news is there's a lot more money to be made by picking underdogs, which we will go over now by looking at which channels are the most accurate and the most profitable underdog pickers. And we start at which channels are the most accurate at finding winning underdogs. From number 10 to number 6 we have the following 5 channels: Hopero MMA, Gerardo from MCA Picks, Pure Picks, Richard Picks and MMA Ethic. And they picked a winning underdog correctly 46.1% up to 46.9%. Opening up the top 5 in 5th place we have Jake Gerber MMA with a correct pick percentage of 47.2%. Axel MMA is in 4th place with a correct pick percentage of 48%. And in 3rd place with a correct pick percentage of 48.6% we have Sports Betting Hub. And in 2nd place, the second most accurate channel in 2025 is Lucrative James. He picked a winning underdog almost half of the time for 49.3%. And in 1st place, the most accurate channel for picking winning underdogs in 2025 is Left Lane MMA. He picked a winning underdog 30 out of 58 for more than half of the time for 51.7%. So congratulations to Left Lane MMA for being the most accurate underdog predictor of 2025. As I mentioned before in this video, the most money to be made in MMA betting in 2025 was made by betting on underdogs. And now we will find out which channels had the best results and were the most profitable with their underdog picks over the last year. And from number 10 to number 6 for the most profitable underdog pickers, we have the following 6 channels: Fight Fairy, Pure Picks, The Wager Zone, Gerardo from MCA Picks, Just Win Baby MMA and Tony Has Died MMA. With a return on investment of 12.5% up to 15.8%. At number 5 we have Sports Betting Hub with a return on investment of 16.6% over his 105 underdog picks. With an almost 3% higher return on investment of 19.4%, we have Axel MMA in 4th place. In 3rd place we have MMA Ethic, who was the most profitable channel with their picks on favorite fighters in odds. And he also did really well with his underdog picks and made a return on investment of 21.3%. And for the second most profitable channel for underdog picks, in 2nd place we have Left Lane MMA, the channel that was the most accurate underdog predictor of 2025. And had you followed all of his underdog picks, you could have made a return on investment of 21.6%. But in 1st place, the most profitable underdog predictor of 2025, we have Lucrative James. Had you placed a $100 moneyline bet on all of his 69 underdog picks, you could have won $1,675 for a very good return on investment of 24.3%. So congratulations to Lucrative James for being the most profitable underdog predictor of 2025. And then, for the final rankings of 2025, we will look at which channels are the most precise with their predictions and can not only predict the winner correctly, but also by which method of victory they win their fight. But before we get into the prediction results, let's first quickly go over the method of victory fight stats of 2025. Out of the 520 fights in 2025, 169 were won by a KO or TKO for 32.5%, so almost a third of all the fights. And most of the KO TKO victories came by punches, 73 in total, or by a punch, 54 in total. And the most unique KO TKO victories were a flying knee, a slam and a spinning back fist. All 3 of them only happened one time this year. 91 fights ended via submission, or 17.5% of all the fights. And most of them, 40 in total, were done via rear naked choke. And the most unique submission wins were a UCQ choke, a key lock and a neck crank. But most of the fights in 2025 went to the scorecards, a total of 254 fights, or 48.85%, so almost half of all the fights. And most of them were won via unanimous decision and only one fight was won via majority decision. And as I mentioned before, there were 3 fights that ended in a draw and 3 that ended in a no contest / could not continue. And as a quick note, I've only started tracking method of victory predictions in the last half year of 2025. So I have less predictions than winner picks. Also, there are a lot of channels that give winner picks for every fight on a card, but not a method of victory for every fight on a card. So there's less data on method of victory predictions and also more variance. Opening up the top 10 for the most accurate channels for winner and method of victory predictions, we have the following 6 channels: Pick'em MMA, Bryce from Boston, The Wager Zone, Adam from MMA Oddsbreaker, Cody MMA, MMA Husky Hustler and Hank's Warzone, with a correct pick percentage of 36% up to 37%. Sharing 5th place we have Left Lane MMA and UFC Ginny. with a correct pick percentage of 37.3%. With a correct pick percentage of 38.3%, in 4th place we have Kunat. And opening the top 3, sharing 3rd place, we have Excel MMA and Fight IQ with Fun. Both of them had a correct pick percentage of 38.6%. And in 2nd place for most accurate channel we have MMA BG. And he had a correct pick percentage of 38.8%. But the most accurate method of victory predictor in 2025 was MMA Experts. He made a total of 137 method of victory predictions and 54 of them were correct for a correct pick percentage of 39.4%. So congratulations to MMA Experts for being the most accurate method of victory prediction channel. And of course the rest of this top 10. And here is the complete overview of all 141 channels that I've tracked method of victory predictions from, which also include channels that made picks on less than 137 fights, which was the minimum for the rankings in this video. And the stats are correct and total method of victory predictions and correct prediction percentage. And as you can see, there are a lot of channels that made less than 20 method of victory predictions. Because I was just starting doing this, I just tracked every method of victory prediction I found in a video, even if it was only one. But in 2026 I'll be sure to ignore the method of victory predictions from those channels that make only 1 or 2 per video. And now, which channels were the most profitable with their method of victory predictions? And to calculate the method of victory results for every event, I've used the average odds from oddsjam.com, which were usually taken around 12 hours before the start of the event. And for the top 10 of the most profitable method of victory predictors, number 10 up to number 7 were unprofitable, and up from number 6 we start seeing a profit. With MMA BG, who had a return on investment of 1.1% over his 263 method of victory predictions. In 5th place we have Fight IQ with Fun, who had a return on investment of 2.8%. And with a return on investment of 3.5%, in 4th place we have Tony Has Died MMA. And in 3rd place, with a return on investment higher than 5%, we have Dryball with a 5.4% return on investment. In 2nd place for most profitable method of victory predictor, we have Mystic KO. And he had a return on investment of 5.9% over his 173 method of victory predictions. But the most profitable method of victory predictor of 2025, in 1st place we have Kunat. If you had followed all of his 175 method of victory predictions and placed a $100 bet on each of them, you could have made a profit of $1,489 for an 8.5% return on investment. So yeah, only 6 out of the top 10 made a profit. But as I mentioned before, there's a lot of variance in method of victory predictions. And my best guess is that in the second half of 2025, when I started tracking method of victory predictions, there was a lot of bad variance overall and more than usually unexpected method of victory outcomes. Or maybe something else. But we'll keep tracking method of victory predictions in 2026 and see if anything changes results wise. But congratulations to Kunat for being the most profitable method of victory predictor of 2025 and the rest of the top 6 that made a profit. And here is the complete overview of all 141 channels from which I've tracked method of victory predictions from in 2025, with their channel name, their profit or loss, their return on investment, the correct and total method of victory predictions, correct prediction percentage and investment. Alright, that was it for the results video of 2025. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative and helpful. If you did, then don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also, please share this video to someone who might also like this video. Thank you all so much for watching and for the support in 2025. For 2026, I have more content and improvements coming to help you make more profitable bets on UFC fights. Enjoy the rest of your holidays and I'll see you again for the first UFC fight in 2026.